Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the AntPod. This is now episode 15, and today we are talking about DIY Ant Nest, DIY ant products, and pretty much everything DIY. We're gonna go over the perks of it. We're gonna, of course, talk about the viewers' opinions because this time I asked the viewers on my YouTube channel, and I got a lot more response. So a bit more to talk about and discuss, and I'm currently looking at a massive DIY project right in front of me, my massive Ada Mexicana Outworld, and I really don't trust my own DIY skills because this setup is really poorly made. But let's hope it lasts just a little bit long enough for me to see some ants walk around and talk about the setup before they all escape. But yeah, guys, we of course have a few co-hosts with us today, and we have Casey. Hello, Casey. What are your thoughts on DIY and stuff?
Oh man, my brain went dumb. I like them. I have 2 DIY Outworlds that I use. I've been trying to get better at making nests, but I haven't got one that I've deemed usable quite yet.
And why is that?
Glass and magnets. I tried to use plexiglass, but it's just not clear enough. It's still a little smoky, and the magnets I ordered weren't quite up to snuff to hold it on. So I'm just waiting until I can learn to cut glass.
Yeah, I must say that is also the way I've done. With my old stepfather. I don't know. He was good with DIY stuff, and we made some cool nests together. My mother's not with him anymore, so now I'm not seeing him anymore, and now my DIY skills is not that good. So I only mainly do Outworlds just because Outworlds are fairly simple. Nest is a little bit too complicated for me, and I've made quite a few DIY nests, but actually never used them. I did make one white tongue nest, and my Camponotus Vegas colony escaped from it, and they are like big ants, so that's where I knew that I was not meant to do DIY. But we have another guy on this podcast today, a guy who pretty much only does DIY. We talked a little bit before the show started. Is it really DIY or is it not DIY? But yeah, Ryan, I would say that you're only doing DIY because naturalistic is DIY. What are your thoughts on DIY nests?
Well, I guess from that perspective, then yeah, I mean, I love them because, I mean, for me, natural setups, I always found it. I guess I didn't find it DIY, but when you think of it, it kind of is. But for myself, I'll always use DIY with founding colonies before I move them into a setup, which is going to be the forever home. So it's all I've ever used. I mean, plastic containers, forever rocher tubs, anything works. As long as you think it out before you do it, how you're going to feed them when they get to 30 workers. Will it be easy? Will they just escape when you take the lid off? Or can I make something where I can actually have an opening at the top, which I can just use? You have to think about it. I think that's all. And you say to yourself, obviously, you don't want to do DIY, but it was your first try. I would always say, keep going, keep trying. You can't do it that bad again, right? Surely.
Yeah, I actually found it quite interesting. On my YouTube channel, I of course asked if people were. I mean, I can just read the quote. Have you done DIY ant projects and was it successful? And there was quite a few. A very impressive 200 people actually voted. 16% goes to all my ant stuff is DIY. 39% goes to some of my ant stuff is DIY. 13% goes to my DIY projects haven't worked out. 23% I only buy ant stuff. And 9% I still don't keep ants because some of them don't keep ants. But I actually got quite an interesting response, and I want to hear you guys' opinions. For some reason, I didn't decide to screenshot it. But someone said that if you go to like specialized species, you can't buy a nest. You have to do DIY. What are your thoughts? What are you guys' thoughts on that? Can you do? Yeah.
I halfway agree with that. I mean, it depends on what it is, what species in particular.
Definitely.
But it's like
Definitely, yeah. because for example,
I'm gonna. Oh, you good? You talk.
no, I was just going to say, no, I agree. You track Jaws. That was I was going to say. Sorry, man. Keep going, keep going. Oh, is that what you were going to say, basically? Yeah.
So, like, I'm gonna bring up honeypots again because they have a very particular habit, and so I actually just finished a DIY nest. I haven't posted it anywhere or even tried using it yet because my ants aren't quite big enough. But if you know who Nerbs is on Instagram,
I'm gonna say
I
no to
borrowed.
that.
He's California ant keeper. His
Okay.
honeypots are his specialty. But he's been using these like I don't know, big plastic cylindrical container, but he's been doing making plaster nests out of that are like layers. I don't know how to explain it. You'll just have to go look. But it's because the honeypots need to hang upside down, and I recently made something similar to his, and it's just my first couple of like floors, I guess, are kind of ugly, and so I haven't really posted it anywhere to show it off or anything.
No, I think the big thing with DIY is the reason I don't particularly like it is because I'm sitting here looking at a very ugly outworld. It's siliconed, very crabby. Is crabby a swear word? I never know. It's so weird having Danish words, and yeah. Either way, I'm looking at with hot glue and all of these bad products. And the reason I tend to go with buying this is, of course, because I make YouTube and I like the quality to look good. And in a massive outworld like my Ada, I can hide the corners. But in a small colony, it's quite hard to hide the very poorly constructed nest. And I like the simplicity of buying a proper nest and having like a properly designed nest.
Yeah.
Also, especially because I know that they can't escape. At least if you do the right research, you'll know if ants generally can't escape the outworlds or nests.
Yeah.
But
I'm kind of. Oh.
Go ahead, Ryan.
No, I was going to agree because they always do look tiny. You can fit in a lot of them as well in a small space. Like a shelf or something, you can fit a lot on there. Whereas DIY, you have to think about where it's going, or you'll have to make something that fits perfectly to whatever shelf or space you've got. And if you don't, then I guess when you start going out and you're actually buying the materials to make something, and if you want it to be 100% and for it to look nice, you have to really spend a little bit more. And by that point, you've probably spent the same money you would on buying.
It's quite fun because when you're saying this, Maximus actually responded to our Instagram post saying he pretty much only uses. Oh, wait, did you drop? Oh, I thought you. Okay, wait, can you just repeat, Ryan? You dropped out.
Sorry, I didn't say anything from then.
Ah, okay. But we have. You just got technical problems may happening tonight. But Max responded to answer your question. I pretty much solely use DIY equipment as it's something I've learned during the years. But he goes down to do the exact opposite of you by saying some nest. Wait, and am I reading the wrong? Wait. Oh yeah, no, it's sorry. I'm just going around in the comment. He says you can fit them exactly where you need. So a big thing like an outworld is quite hard to do DIY stuff with if you want to do a spatial size. But if you're doing like a white tongue nest, you can put it exactly in the corner or exactly on the shelf or wherever you need to fit it. Where maybe an ant nest is bigger or smaller. So that's where DIY really can shine. Do you guys feel like it's a lot more cheap to buy DIY? Yeah, not buying and building your own nests.
I mean, with DIY, it really depends on how big of a nest you want to build, So, like, for me, it's a little cheaper because I'm, Tar Heel Ants fanboy, but
at least he's honest.
Yeah, it's a little cheaper, I think. I'm attempting to make the same thing as he's making, just mine aren't quite as nice.
Anything to add, Ryan?
I think it can be cheaper. Yeah. For example, for mine, literally, I just buy a Ferrero Rocher tub. Um, by that I mean just buy the chocolates, use that, and then that cost me what, like £5-6, and then literally just add a little bit of dirt, some springtails from a culture I've already got, and a few isopods. Put the colony in, and then just feed them your normal routine. And after, what, like I say, about 100 workers, then you can move them into the forever home, and it's as easy as that. And that you're talking, it could be a year, depending on what species. It could be 6 months, but for 6 months you've spent like 5-6 quid, and then soil. You can buy a bag of soil for £5, and you're going to use a handful of it for the Ferrero Rocher tub. So, yeah, I think DIY can be very cheap. But like you say, if you're wanting something like yours, for example, with your leaf cutters, if you're wanting something that's displayed nice and looks nice, you're saying it's a little bit crabby. If you want it to really look nice, if you bought glass panes instead of using acrylic sheets, which is a little bit more, it's harder to work with because it bends, it's cheap. So if you were to use glass panes and got that right, then you can scrape off the excess silicon, and when you put your soil in, you won't be able to see it anyway. You'll just see the soil in there, and you know what I mean. It just looks tidier, it's nicer, it's like a cleaner finish. But then to buy the panes would be probably more, depending on the size of the panes, to actually just buy a made nest from someone. Even your expensive ones, like for me and you, like Tar Heel ants nests. So I think we spoke about that, just how they were just a little bit pricey for us because we live, and it's because of where we live. But
yeah. I feel where DIY shines is if you have a lot of colonies. I feel if you have one colony and you want to upgrade that one nest, it's not too expensive to buy one nest. Because if you go out to buy, let's say you want to make a white tongue nest, you of course need to have a screwdriver, a saw of some kind to cut the block to your size. You also need some kind of saw to cut, let's say, a plexiglass panel. But then you also need a plexiglass panel. So I once did a DIY because I saw someone did a giveaway, and I looked in. It was an ants Australia nest. I looked into the nest. It cost $45, and I said, "Nah, I can do it cheaper." But just when I bought all the materials, it was like $80, and I built a very crappy nest. But the thing is, I could build 20 crappy nests because then I would have all the materials. So I really think it depends on what you're doing, especially with nest making. I've done a lot of very cheap outworlds if I have a founding colony, buy the cheapest box in a dollar store, put the ants in there, drill some holes, boom, outworld, and it looks fine. And for outworlds, it's a totally different story because you can buy quite cheap storage boxes that you can see through and just cut some holes, and then you have an outworld. But for nest making, I think that's why you need to think, why would I do DIY? Do I need 10 nests? Do I need a very big nest, or what's my reason behind doing it?
Yeah, but then at the same time, I guess when your colony reaches a certain capacity, because the whole famous thing, right, isn't it, right? So you start with a small acrylic founding nest, then you'll get a medium one, then you get a large one, then you get a bigger outworld, even bigger outworlds, and all of those are even larger costs every single time. Whereas if you've just got one made DIY nest, it's made so you don't have to keep buying expansions. You just put them in a tank that you think they would probably fit in at the time, or at max capacity, say a 2 or 3 foot tank. But then, although it's a big expense, you're not having to then fork out for more and more and more.
Yeah, and I think. Oh yeah, go ahead, Casey.
I'm almost looking at like DIY nest building as like a honeable skill. So like, I feel like if you have like fast growing colonies, or sometimes you just accidentally wait too long and your colony is bursting out of the seams and you need a nest in a hurry. I feel like if you practice DIY nest making, you'll eventually get better at it. And then when you're in a hurry to build a nest for your way too fast growing colony, you're prepared for that, That's kind of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to hone the skill, trying to get better so that I can eventually just stop buying nests.
And I'm
Yeah.
just going to change the topic a little bit. First of all, shout out to Simon, a family member of the Antholfer YouTube channel, who's listening live in on this recording. So yeah, if you want to listen live in, you can. And also, Sam have joined. So Sam was a little bit late. But Sam, what are your thoughts on DIY stuff? Is it something you've done, or are you all in on buying nests and
Right,
upwards?
so
Oh, yeah,
Need
Sam, you need to
more-
get the microphone down.
is that better?
Yeah.
Yep.
Right, perfect for every time. So I need to do more DIY stuff. For me personally, it's just the time it takes to do it. Because I'm always so busy, it's the thing of if I can get something or just buy it pre-made or make my life as simple as possible, I'll do that. I do want to actually start with a lot of the DIY stuff because I don't know. I feel like it's a lot more rewarding when it works out, especially like I guess you can call it DIY naturalistic or something, and then you plan it from the start, and then it all kind of grows in, and I don't know. It's a lot more rewarding. But for me at the minute, I don't have too much of it just because of the time and lack of time I've got.
Yeah, that's true. Because if
But,
you want a proper one, sorry.
Yeah, just what you just said. If it works out, we have Sifu who said, "I made a white tongue nest only to realize that my ants can't be housed in it." I think it's a good idea if you are doing DIY to do a little research and to watch more than one YouTube video. Because again, I've done a few DIY projects, all nest-related projects failing. Yeah, that was just what I want to say.
Okay. No. It was kind of alongside what Sam was saying. Basically, the time to build them, like making the founding setup, is easy, right? Because you just fling dirt in a container and you're good to go. Like I say, the Ferrero Rocher type thing. But if you then need to think about the upgrade, you're then going to have to do research behind what I would do anyway is the soils, what inhabitants would go well with them, what the max capacity of that colony is going to be. Will this tank be forever? Because then getting them out of, say, a 3-foot setup, 2 foot, however big it is going to be very difficult to move them into something bigger when they're all underground. With something small or on a small scale, it's all right, it's manageable, but something that big is just going to be, you're talking like a full day's work of careful work, getting everything out within another setup. And even then, you couldn't scape it. You couldn't make it nice the next setup because you're shifting loads of dirt into a tank where you can't plant things, you don't know where the queen is, etc. So you do need a lot of forward planning.
How many hours have you sat there thinking about that happening as well? As opposed to actual doing it, it's the sitting there, the time it takes in your head, just thinking about all these ideas and
Like I had that trap jaw tank sat on that thing for 2 months. I couldn't think of how I could get around a problem I had. And when it clicked, even then, it took me, 6 to 8 hours a day, silicon sealing rocks individually onto the fibers and like that was over the course of like a week. And then obviously the day setting it up and washing it down and then cycling it. I cycled it for a month before I had anything. And I waited 6 months till I had another 5 months till I had an ants. And it's just the wait time, really, I think, as well, because when you make a cell, it's natural. It's also waiting, which I always hate.
Yeah, I also feel if you are doing the reason I fail with my DIY projects is because I rushed them. I do the thing for me that's very big with DIY is the escape risk. Of course, in an outworld you can put anti-escape, but like with my white tongue nest where the ants could crawl out the sides, I feel it's a big thing, especially for people at home with parents where they're keeping an eye on you building whatever you're doing. I feel for people at home, it's maybe not the best idea to go DIY because if they escape, I mean the thing I say to new ant keepers where the parents don't allow it is, don't do DIY. Buy some proper stuff because that's some stuff you can trust. Because I personally have had a lot of bad experiences with DIY simply because I rushed building them.
I agree with that because when you're building it, you're all excited about your ants. But I keep ants, and I still live with my parents, unfortunately. But yeah, that was definitely a big help. Was, hey, I bought this enclosure specifically meant to do this thing, so the likelihood of my ants getting out is a lot lower.
Yeah, yeah,
That definitely helped to convince them to give me permission to do that.
yeah,
Yeah, I definitely think it is a very big factor to keep in mind. Um, I must say I'm very impressed for after I've asked the viewers. Almost everyone says my outworlds are DIY. 90% of my stuff is DIY. I bought my test tubes and then I've never bought any stuff anymore. All of my outworlds are DIY. As there's a lot of people using outworlds as DIY projects. And of course, Sam, we haven't talked too much with your stuff. So how do you have anything DIY at the moment, or what is your status? Because Casey, you're using Tar Heel Ants. Ryan, you're naturalistic. I'm a little bit mostly Wakushi, but I also have a little bit of DIY outworlds. But what's your live update, Sam?
So here in my actual room, I haven't got anything too much at the minute, but I am planning to. The stuff at work, I'm planning to build. Me and Rich are planning to build like a naturalistic Harpignathos setup. So that's going to be our little DIY project at the minute. So we've got a few bits, but that's the most relevant because it's happened recently or it's happening. So that's going to be our project, just because I don't know, it's a lot more fun than watching something like a harp in a natural tank, as opposed to something a lot less natural. So that's going to be our project and something we can focus on. We've got other natural builds and DIY. You can technically put them as DIY. The thing with us, if something doesn't fit or something doesn't work, then how a setup we want it to be, we just go along and literally wing it. That makes sense. And lots of like glue gunning later and making it fit and making sure there aren't escapees and all the rest of it. So DIY, we probably do most of the ant room is DIY, but yeah, the actual setups, a few naturalistic ones, and then the big one that was on about the harps that we're looking forward to.
I have a question out to all of you. Justin Ankiwa says, does 3D printing stuff count as DIY? What do you guys think?
I think if you drew it up in your own CAD file, then yes.
Yeah.
I agree. But the question is, where's the line then? Because when did Aesthetic Ants going from doing DIY to being a store?
When he started selling it.
Just like that. I guess that is black and white. That is how it is.
Because that's kind of my eventual goal with my DIY nest too. Is I want to hone that skill well enough that I could provide nests for other people.
Yeah, but that's a whole other thing. I mean, we say you do buy something from a store. When will you know? I mean, the thing is, the store can say, we've tested it with all these kind of ants, but when can you trust the store? Because I remember Aesthetic in his first nest that Fidoli could escape, and then he made a new nest where the Fidoli couldn't escape and stuff like that. Because, yeah, I mean, it's hard to say go to a store when you can't completely trust the store. I mean, of course, mostly you can, but yeah, interesting dilemma. Did you have something to say, Sam?
You've got to trial it, and you've just got to have confidence in the person over because a product, as long as a company can go or admit their product doesn't work, and it's how they deal with it at that point, right, as opposed to anything else. So there's always going to be flaws and things that people haven't thought about, and everyone's a human being. It's human beings behind the businesses. They're going to make mistakes, but it's how they deal with that if something does happen.
It's a natural progression of refining your skills and product, I think.
It's why there are generations of stuff, right? It's like Gen 1, Gen 2. Yeah. I know Tar Heel Ants did the same thing with their nests.
Yep, they switched materials and dubbed it Type 3.
Listened to the kind of customers and went, hang on a minute, they've got a point here.
Yeah, and same with Wakushi going for Gen 3. And of course, I've talked a lot behind the scenes with Wakushi because he's a good friend. And it's insane how much, I said to him, I want to buy this nest. And he was like, I don't really want you to get that nest because I don't want people to buy that nest because it's actually outdated. so I would prefer you to wait, and then we can figure out and stuff like this. Just because he had some flaws that he wanted to fix, and yeah, that's something I really respect. And I don't know if it's because I followed Aesthetic Ants and we're good friends that I've noticed it. But I did notice after Aesthetic Ants went out and made these DIY stuff, these 3D printing nests becoming store product nests, a lot of people started just printing a nest saying, "Oh, this is my nest. You can buy it now on SD." Maybe, yeah. The thing is, it's hard because you can't just tell someone that it isn't a store, because you have to, like you say, test and slowly get better and better. Yeah, I think it just comes with a responsibility that maybe all of these new people with 3D printers doesn't think too far ahead of. Yeah, I don't know. That's my thoughts, at least.
There's always a fine line, and the more excited you get as like a hobbyist turning into a store, I think that's possibly when people just start.
You know, it's all over Etsy.
Yeah, and stuff is all over Etsy. That is very true.
And
Well,
then
just
you've got
3D
the proper-
printed stuff in general.
Yeah, but the thing with 3D printing is, of course, 3D printing should be quite safe. Back with Aesthetic Ants, the thing that went wrong with that one was he had a 3D printed nest. Then he had a little sponge he inserted and a thin mesh, and the ants could just get above the mesh and come in. And it's the small things, because the 3D printed material, the filament itself, is escape safe. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just something. It's something to keep in mind. I'm just looking to see if there's any interesting comments I've missed on the different responses. Steve says not yet. He has not made a watch DIY nest yet, but he's been watching YouTube videos and might make some in the future. That's me in a nutshell. I watched Ants Vienna doing DIY. I watched Ants Scandinavia do DIY. I wanted to do a DIY and realized it actually takes a little bit more than what they show online.
The thing they don't show online, and I'm going to say it again, is like the preparation work behind it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the actual just sitting there and thinking. It's the same with anything you do. How many hours have you sat there thinking in your head when you're not doing anything else, trying to focus on that before you can... Putting it together is all the fun part. And if you've done it correctly, you've got a rough idea maybe of the stuff. Actually, the escaping, you make it up as you go along sometimes, but you've got a rough idea in your head of how it should be, or you want it to kind of be. Because you've sat there, and even if you don't think you're thinking about it, it's in your head. And until you've done it, it's just going to sit there. And then the YouTube video is just the 10-minute condensed part.
I have a whole notebook full of Formicarium sketches and ideas and stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely get the thinking part about it.
Yeah, I also thought about my nest, but they the thing was, when I came to building them, I worked faster than I should have worked.
The problem I've got with them is that I try to be a perfectionist, which is fine, but I come up with idea number one, and then I lie there and think about, literally lie in my bed trying to get to sleep, and I can't stop or rewind until I've thought about another way to do it, or is that better, or was my first idea wrong? So I just keep going and keep going and keep going, and sometimes I have to just buy everything and make it up as I go along, otherwise I obsess far too much over trying to come up with a million ideas of the best possible way. So I'm like the opposite of rushing it. I take my time too much, I think.
But that is better in the end. I mean, as long as you're not on the hour and getting paid, I think as long as it's in your own time,
it's not Rich's time. It's all right.
Yeah. I think something quite interesting happened when my big Mr. Barbers escaped due to the product failing. It was quite interesting seeing the DIY versus not DIY got attacked. All my DIY projects got attacked, and except for one nest, all of the nests survived. So especially also with Ants Hood having his massive escape with Solenopsis by the time this comes out last week. But but he had a massive escape. And again, most of the good solid products worked, but the cheaper products, Solenopsis was able to get in because Solenopsis are crazy small ants. So I think it's also something to think about, because I have a very poorly made outworld in front of me, and I know it is just a matter of time before they escape. I have had 3 escapees, 3 different days, don't know where, just added protection all over the place. But now, as I know my Arda Mexicana is in DIY and my Mesobarbarus is in DIY, I've now put anti-escape on both the inside and the outside. So if the ants are roaming around, they at least can't come in and start a war. And I don't know if I'm overprotective, but yeah, it's something to have in mind at least. Especially the thing is, DIY becomes a very big thing to do when you have a massive colony, because I looked into getting a new setup for my Mesobarbarus. It would cost me like £500 or something to get 2 outworlds and 4 nests that could fit them all. That is crazy expensive compared to buying a Whiton block for, I don't know, £15, something. I don't know the price, but you can get quite a big block and just carve out the nest. But the escape risk is just larger with a big colony. So yeah, like we've said a few times, it's just important to do the right research before actually working with the products.
See, I don't know if this is going to come across the wrong way, but me, if it's something like that and I go, right, how much time am I going to have to put into it? I want to just pay more, and just, I know it's not stress, and I know it's not everything else. And I know not everyone's in that position, but for me right now, I think in my head of how much time, stress, and energy am I going to put into that over just getting something that's going to save me a lot of time. Going back to like my previous point, I guess, but it's unfortunately the way of my thinking at the minute. And then when I get free time in the future, I can maybe sit back and enjoy and building these things and take it a bit more time.
But but you're hitting some key points here, because my Arda needed a new outworld, and I wanted to make something big and fancy. And I looked at stores, I talked with people. The prices were insane, so I knew DIY was the only option. And now I've made this outworld, and I'm so scared every time I come in the morning and every time I leave, because the thing is, once the ants escape, they can start trailing, and once they start to build a proper trail and escape, that's where it can go very wrong very quickly. So that's why I've added protective layer on the inside of my outworld, on the outside, and even on the legs, just because if they escaped, I have that much more time to react. But if I had just bought something proper, like a proper outworld with a proper lip inwards, so an upside down section where I could actually put anti-slip, it would be way better than having silicone and put tape on the silicone and put anti-escape on the tape that's on the silicone, and still they are escaping. But yeah.
Yeah, it's the stress with it.
Yeah, I think it's what Sam says. Like, to do it properly, you need to put a lot of time into it. And when you're trying to make something quick because you've just got a new species and you want to do something, it's not that easy to do that. You can, and once you make it, there's always things, or you think you'll could have done it better. So, actually, really, I think just doing it repetitively, and you'll come up with better ways naturally anyway. You will eventually, and also saving time. And once you've got an idea, or you've had that idea in your head and you know how to make it, it'll get faster. But it's still just getting the time to make it, and that's the difficult thing.
Yes, exactly. Well, from what I could see online, a lot of people, the big bad thing about buying Nest was definitely the price compared to DIY, and I think that is why. Let me just get the percentage again, because the percentages were high. A lot of people are using DIY. Some of my stuff is DIY 39%. That's high, and all my stuff is DIY 16%. But a little bit going back to what we talked last week about inbreeding species, I would personally not go with something inbreeding and what is it called? That's bad for your local environment.
Invasive.
Like if the yes, invasive, exactly, invasive species. I think it also comes with a respect that okay, this is an invasive species. What happens if I lose the control and they get out because DIY? And again, I know some people may not care, and people may just be nah, doesn't matter. Maybe I'm overthinking, but yeah, I think it's something to keep in mind at least.
No, I completely agree because I
Yeah.
haven't got small SFP events. Sorry.
You just lacked Mr. Casey.
Oh, so that's absolutely is
Yeah,
have
yeah, we're gonna go back to Casey in a second. Yeah, you're lagging again, Casey. Oh, by the way,
joys of
Casey
living
is
in America.
yeah, Casey's not in his usual recordings, but he's in a car, so his internet is a little bit worse than normal. What were you saying, Ryan?
No, just very quick. So Casey, if he comes back, basically, if that's why I don't keep tiny ants because I only build DIY. So if I'm building something, I know for a fact small species of ants, anything like 2-3 mil, they're going to get out. It's why I'm really reluctant to make something for like a Fidole. As much as I love them and want to buy them, I'm not sure what I should do if I just buy a nest or DIY because I know it's harder to keep them in with DIY. Although it's working well with my scuds now, it's inevitable that at one point they'll probably chew the silicon or something because those are just going crazy.
Yeah, there's certain species you just don't want to push it, do you? You know you're kind of pushing your luck by keeping them in the first place, so...
Yeah, it's like
it's one of
tetras.
those.
I would love tetras in the natural, but there's just
Yeah.
kind of a chance that they would even survive. Survive. They would even be able to stay or kept inside. You know what I'm trying to say. Some of my words
Yeah. I think it's because Ants Netherlands over from Instagram. He had a massive escape with his.
I was literally about to
Cremagastus scutularis. They escaped during his holiday, and when he came back, the colony had literally relocated. I'm pretty sure the queen also relocated, and they just live in his house now. And yeah, although I mean it's a great colony, and of course your parents will never be happy hearing stuff like that. But think if it was an inbreeding species, that
yeah.
But luckily it wasn't. So yeah. Okay.
Even solo with studs.
Yeah, Casey, when he lagged out, he was just agreeing with you should buy stuff for small ants instead of DIY. I must say, guys, punk like things we have to go through regarding the recording. We have done all the big things. So if there's anything you guys want to throw in, now will be the time. Also, just a shout out, we have another family member now also listening in, Ira. So hello to Ira. Do you guys have anything to throw in? DIY wise.
I've got something I saw. I'll let Casey go first, but
I got like another 3-4 months until I can use the DIY nest that I made because I bought some honey pots. That's all I got.
But we've got to appreciate this because we know how excited you are.
Yeah.
I'm far too excited. I tried all summer to catch my own. I tried all last summer. I was successful last summer, but they all died. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked. I'm far too stoked about it, to be honest with you.
See, I must say something to you guys because public-wise, no one have actually, except for Koshi, no one really knows of this. I'm looking at my Ada, and they have a massive death pile. I've never seen that many dead ants around the same perimeter. All over my outworld, I have death all over the place, more than natural causes, so they have definitely been infected by something. And it could be a leaf I fed, it could be a rose I fed, it could be anything in the world. But I've used silicone, aquarium silicone, to build this, and I've used hot glue to do a temporary fix. And I can't sit here and not think maybe it's my equipment, maybe it's the silicone, maybe it's the hot glue, that's killing the ants, and I think that's a big responsibility also, especially when you're like painting a white tongue nest. I'd always say go for kids-friendly paint.
I
That
mean,
is a
I
good
put
point.
hot glue on my chromatic gases on the lid after they'd escaped, and nothing happened to them. It's the same with like certain silicon, as long as it's like is it mold free or not mold free? I can't remember which way, but just basically aquarium silicon. That's the one you need. It's fine, but it does have to air out. You have to leave that for like 72 hours at least, and then wash it down, and then it's safe to use. Or
Yeah,
else
Sam.
it does get in the air. But hot glue is fine.
Also, on the DIY side, if you're gonna use dirt from your yard, boil it or
Boil it or bake it. I'm guessing that's what he wants to say.
Yeah.
We lost you again, Casey. Boil it or bake it. But yeah, what he
At least
says is
finished
very
the
true.
sentence.
Yeah, that's we almost finished. Yeah, exactly.
I've got a
but-
random bit to add. DIY.
Oh yeah, just to finish off with Casey, it's a good point that you can't, because that's the thing, you can't introduce pesticides or mites or all these bad bacteria from outside, like maybe I've done with my leaf cutters, but I have to feed fresh leaves, so that's on another topic. But yeah, I think it's something to keep in mind that if you're taking stuff from outside, even when I'm just taking rocks, I've been overprotective. I've always just put them in some boiling water before adding them to formicariums, just because better safe than
Yeah.
sorry.
But at the same time, it's like in acrylic nest, it's more of an uncontrolled environment for pesticides. Like if you had ants in dirt and then you had mites, then you had a predatory mites that got a much higher chance of surviving in dirt than they do in just an acrylic nest.
That's true.
So like it's less controlled, but I think for me, I mean, I've used it before. My giant African millipedes are in just all soil from outside, and they've been fine. But then that's not to say it wouldn't be with anything else.
It's something to keep in mind at least. Sam, we've interrupted you twice now. What do you want to say?
Oh, that's alright. I see how it is.
That's how it is when you're late.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I can get bullied all.
Yeah.
So I saw a video. It was posted 2 weeks ago, but I forgot to say anything. I don't know if it's been brought up at all. By a channel called Decolony.
Yes,
Yeah.
Have you seen? Do you think?
He's good.
Yeah.
I mentioned it. Yeah. Not this one. Probably not this one.
So it was an arboreal setup. He made it out of like a tree.
Oh yeah, that's
like,
nice. Yeah.
yeah,
DIY natural, but it flips open, so that it's quite hard to explain. But when you see it, you'll know what I mean.
his collapsible tree.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, it was fancy. That was a good video.
It was very very cool.
His
Very
DIY
cool.
stuff is insane. He makes it look so easy on the videos. Even today, he posted a video where he took out some nests he had some bad experience with, took out the insides, put in some plaster that he just made, and boom, made a very nicely looking nest. And I just really want to do something like that, because he really inspires me to do something like that. But I know I can't, so because every time I do, it fails. But yeah,
The thing is, what he
he's
doesn't show
legendary.
on his channel and anyone in general is how many attempts he's had to do for it to get to that point. It's the same with when I first started doing like aquariumscape and things like that, and it's the same with Ryan, I guess, with your natural setups, right? How many ones have you just tried putting blooming rocks and wood together to try to make it look nice? It sounds stupid, but then you kind of get a knack to it over time. But there's a lot of things that just look awful up until the point where you kind of start getting the idea of how you want it to be then.
No, that's true.
It is absolutely a honable skill, I think.
Yeah, you can't just read something kind of on a piece of paper and tell you how to do it. And that's the hardest thing with DIY. It's practical experience. You just go in
And
there
even when
and
you
have
watch,
to learn.
yeah, even when you watch it as well, so on YouTube, and you go, right, okay, this is how you do it. I'm just going to copy what they do, but they've done it so many times and make it look easy.
Just cutting glass, man. Just cut the
Yeah,
glass
like
and you
even
break it.
cutting glass. Oh yeah, just put
Even-
glass and bend it, and
even
snap
acrylic.
comes off. Yeah, it's like
I mean,
no.
It's a bit
doesn't
like
mean,
the cooking shows,
that-
right?
work.
I have
Yeah,
iron
Absolutely
saw.
yeah.
makes me
exactly.
insanely nervous.
I mean, an iron saw for acrylic works if you go with the acrylic, like cuts very slowly down. If you cut straight up and down, like I did, it cracked, and I was like, oh, well, it
Yeah.
didn't crack in the YouTubers videos. What am I doing wrong? But then it's
Well,
it's the angle of the cutting and all of this, and yeah.
Okay. See, mine, I clamped it down like vices on the table. Then I was just heating up a blade, and then like as obviously I had it marked up on the bench, and just kept heating the blade up, going backwards and forwards, like melting it, going down. And then I like scraped the top layer off, and it turned out okay. But I was like, yeah, there must be easier ways to do this. It's just like a flame, just like yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I used the multi-cutter for my artwork in front of me. Definitely also something I can't recommend. Multi-cutter for acrylic. Yeah, it melts its way through, and if I cut like a 160 something centimeters, so once I had cut it over, it had melted together in the other side, and yeah, then it cracked when I tried to crack it up again. So yeah.
So you could probably make a whole video of epic failures if you're trying to get to a certain point.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. That's the parts we don't show, or we don't show.
Yeah.
I've made builds before, like completed it, built the whole thing, and just gone, that is horrendous, and just tipped it upside down back into the
Yeah.
bucket, and just started again, like so many times. But that's normally when you think, right, I need to just give it a rest for tonight and just start again tomorrow.
It's literally the best way to do it with natural stuff. I did the same with one of my aquariums once. I put everything there, and it was looking okay. I was happy with it. And I rushed it, and I wanted to fill it up straight away, so I filled it up that evening, the water in, and of course, the wood hadn't been soaked, so everything just started floating. And I was so angry
all your
looking at it.
plants
It was like my
soaked.
hard work had just literally slowly
no.
floated out, mocking me.
Yeah,
It was just
Yeah.
one of those.
schoolboy errors.
Yeah,
I was
I've
the
learned.
same. Yeah, it's the same thing with my leafcutter colony, leafcutter setup I did. That have inspired a lot of people. I'm a little bit scared for how many it has inspired since then. I put plaster, gypsum plaster down on glass, and because it heats up and expands the plaster, the glass cracked, and it got a very nice crack all the way past everything. And then when I tried saying, "All right, it's not that bad. It's just a crack," then I started setting the setup into use, running test, and it just cracked twice, two more times again. So now that's why I'm going a lot with just buying stuff, because for me it is simple, and it is something I can just trust and not be scared
Yeah.
of. Like with my other Outworld, I'm so scared of it.
Areas.
I'm not that with my normal setups. What's up, Casey?
Oh, I scratched up my DIY honeypot tower trying to get my plaster mold out. It just I scuffed up the entire viewing area, so like I'm kind of debating on whether or not I even want to use it.
Yeah, and the worst thing is having hard work just to just never use it.
Yeah.
So while we are here, and while we do have a family member listening live in, Ira have asked, what is the best nest for Lasius Niger with DIY? Can we just while we answer this, what kind of DIY things are there? Because I'm thinking white tongue. I haven't really thought naturalistic before today. So white tongue, naturalistic, and then there's some kind of
Tubs and
plaster. Yeah, tubs and I mean, yeah. If we forget I mean, that isn't. Yeah, let's just name them Chops and Tubes. What else is there? I mean, 3D printing, half.
Outworld for sure. Nests.
Gypsum,
Yeah.
that's the one I was trying to think of.
Yeah, I have gypsum plaster. So I don't know the difference, to be honest.
Good
I
old
guess the
good old
chemicals-
style dirt jar.
That works.
I got a job.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I really like the ones where you have like they took a cup. I think it was Ant Invasion way back many years ago. Took a cup, put sand in the cup on the walls, and then he filled it up with plaster gypsum, and then he washed the sand out, and then he had these nicely carved walk pathways throughout this little cup, and then he could get the cup out. It was very nice and simple, and it for sure took a lot more thoughts than just doing that. But what would you guys recommend to Lacius Niter for DIY? I'd say white tongue, a very small white tongue nest. That's my.
The thing with Niger is that they're going to be fine in pretty much most things.
Yeah, but white tongue is easy.
Yeah, that's
or
true.
gypsum. You could figure out how to copy a Tar Heel Ants nest. Those aren't too hard to make. With the gypsum,
what's the process?
What's
the process of doing that?
You have to buy your gypsum powder, and you mix it up a little bit, and then you have to find something that you can use as a water container that you can glue mesh to the top of. And then you have to find a mold that you can pour the plaster in, and some good like sandcastle sand to build your nest chamber out of. It's a process, but it's not too hard. If you've built DIY stuff before, then it definitely shouldn't be. It's not as easy as carving into white tongue with the screwdriver, though.
I really want to try something like that to mold a nest or to like form. I really want to try it. I'm very scared of my own abilities because I overestimate them in my head because I'm just thinking, this YouTube guy did it. I can do it.
I think when you do them, you need to breathe. You need to text one of us and just tell you to chill out and just do it.
Yeah.
We'll be your therapists when you're doing this.
Yeah.
And also
Good
just know that if you fail, just start over.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very normal to fail, and don't put ants in something that you don't trust. Nest-wise, are good if you have small ants. Like I had a big Caminotus Vegas that escaped my white tongue nest. If I just poured water into that nest, I would have seen all the water fly out from all sides. Because water can get through everything, and ants can get through a lot of things. So if you have the option to put a little bit of water in, it is a good tester, because it will flow out. If you have like, especially with white tongue, if you have like a soft corner, or maybe you thought maybe I cut a little bit too close to the edge, put water in. If the water seeps out, then the ants may also be able to run out from that hole. But yeah, we have used a lot more time now. Anything you guys want to add for DIY wise? I don't think I have anything now.
Got the time,
I
go
have
for it.
my. Yeah, you go for it.
Oh no! So that was like my statement. If people have the time,
my bad.
like what to call it? If people literally have the time and they just want something fun and rewarding, something like that, then 100% go for it. That's all I got.
Wonderful. And Casey?
Yeah, I don't have anything more to say. I was just gonna jump into my ant news.
I mean, saying that, we may as well jump into the ant news. So yeah, Sam, what is your ant news? Oh, not Sam, not Casey. What is your ant news?
So I kind of have two. I have one from a YouTube channel called Deep Look that is also about honeypots specifically, but then I found a really good DIY channel called Crazy Legs. And he primarily does over-the-top white tongue nests.
Is he only ant-based, or what's his video style like?
Just ants. All time lapses. He doesn't really talk much. It's just he does time lapses of him building super, super nice DIY nests.
And what was his name?
Crazy Legs.
Crazy Legs. I have given him a sub, so I'm gonna see what he has done. Ryan, Sam, do you guys have ant news this week? It's okay if you haven't.
I don't. I'm gonna be really boring. I do apologize. I've just been really busy this week.
Yeah, it's
So,
acceptable.
I should have had I would have had a good ant news last week because it was fresh from the invert show that we went to. But
I mean, yeah, that's right. Yeah, let's share a little bit about that. So, yeah, what's the story behind that?
so me and Rich, Antantix, and Sid from Wakushi, we went all the way down to Bristol, which it's not too far. It was just over the couple-hour drive from Carmarthen, and we went to a invert show. So it's mostly kind of throughout the years, it's been spiders, praying mantis, everything like that. But we thought we'd go down there and kind of represent the ant keeping side, just get a feel for it to see how people would react. And it went down really, really well. And we saw a lot of customers that are bought online, and also a lot of course, we were going to have a lot of new people down there, and everyone was really, really curious. So it was very cool to see, and it was cool going around, and everyone's got tarantulas in their bags that they've bought, and they're praying mantis, and then it was like a smile every time I walked past and saw an Antantix box or a Sid Formicarium. It was kind of one of those. It was nice to see.
What was the most commonly asked question then?
It varied quite a lot. I don't think there was one. There was a few repeats of the normal, like mother and kid of, I'm completely new to this. Where do I start? But then it wasn't really They all said it differently. I went through the general thing, and even though I must have said it a lot of times, I really don't mind because we've all been there, right? It wasn't one of those.
Yeah,
It's one question that gets a bit boring after half an hour of hearing it, because you've just got to have that understanding that they want to get into it, they're passionate. Everyone's got to start somewhere.
Exactly. And saying that, if you are listening in here and you want some beginning tips, we have actually done a complete full beginner guide for everything ant related. It's between part 13 and part 14. So if you want a good long listen to, the whole basic way of keeping ants, now you can. Ryan, do you have any ant news this week?
No ant news really. To be fair, we spoke about what I wanted to speak about, which was D-Colony, just about how good his little DIY nests are. The main one was the smoothie cups, similar to the ant invasion one you mentioned. He uses some, but he does. I can't remember what material he used, but his were done very well. But that was it really.
Wonderful. Yeah, my ant news this week was supposed to be I was supposed to talk a little bit about Ant Hood's escape. Because a big thing this weekend was Hood's big escape. His massive Solenopsis escaped once again and wiped out 3 of his colonies, as far as what I saw. And it was chaos. He did a lot of streams, and he had a big escape, and he ended up saying, it's been too much keeping these. I won't keep them any longer. And if you want to hear why and everything, you can hear it on Hood's channel. Shout out to Hood, you Hood. I found that very surprising. I mean, he just did a video on building a new setup and using a lot of new glass setups and ditching the old setups. And even before he made his part 2 of moving the ants into the setups, they only found one escape area, I think, but they just all flooded out and just started murdering all the other colonies. And it was actually quite interesting that they didn't go for the roaches, but they went for killing all the neighboring colonies. Very sad for you, Hood. Very sorry for your loss. I did find it very fascinating following the whole story. But that was supposed to be my ant news, and it is. But also some other ant news. So, of course, for those who've seen my Instagram story, you will know this very incredible story. I was out walking my dog, and I walked past a group of people, and I walked over to the other side of the road and continued walking my dog. And the people looked a little bit over at me, and I looked a little bit back, just like I hate looking. So I looked very gently over towards them, and I saw that they kept looking at me before finally one said, "Hey, Ian Oliver," and I waved back. And that was the first time a completely random group of people looked at me and just waved and said hello. So I've been recognized a lot when I'm going to school and people are asking, "Are you the ant guy?" And I've been saying yes. But that's been the first time some complete strangers just waved and said hello. out of nowhere. So, yeah.
So you
That's
walked
the
back
first.
home super confident, just smiling to yourself.
So I just
wow.
walked back. The worst thing, I kept walking back thinking, oh no, what did I even respond? Because I said like, hello, and did like a very awkward wave, I think, and that's what I kept thinking about. Like, they just thought that I thought they were strangers or something, because I came like, who are you guys? Wave. So, yeah. Anyway,
It probably made it look like you're
That's-
used to it. You didn't have time for them because you're so popular.
yeah, just stuff. The worst thing, because I'm very bad at like social situations. The worst thing is we both waited at a red light, and I was standing on the other side of the road, and I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna look the other way.
Oh my God.
Because I'm not good at stuff like that. I mean, yeah. So that's my end news.
It's hilarious.
With that being said, let's take one final round around all you guys. Final thoughts about DIY after today's discussion. Starting with you, Casey. What have you changed your mind about them? What are your final thoughts of DIY?
I like DIY. I just want to get better. And if Outworlds aren't too bad to make, Y-Tongue nests aren't too bad to make, try it, test it. If it doesn't work, don't feel bad. Just try again. It's a skill that you are definitely able to get better at. This is my final thought.
Wonderful. Can't lie. I agree. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I would say do it, try it. If you're going to do it, though, just remember to take your time and do the research and doing it right. Because if you do it right the first time, then you won't have escaping ants, and you won't have to then make something else to kind of supersede the first. So just take your time, do your research, and you'll get it right. But I'd definitely try it. Yeah.
Yes. And Sam?
I think mine would just be obviously do your research, but just jump in and give it a go. Don't worry or don't be scared if you think you've done it wrong or you're going to make mistakes. It's going to happen. Just be prepared that it might take 2 or 3 attempts before you're actually happy with it, or it's what the plan in your brain and it actually looks like in person. So yeah, just give it a go, and so what if you fail the first time? Just try again, kind of deal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very
exactly.
rude that you just said that, because that was what I was gonna say.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, what Sam just said, don't be afraid to fail. If you are in doubt, you can try the water test. I mean, I don't know if you can use water on all products, but if you have a hole and you're scared that ants can get out, try to put a little bit of water and see if the water easily gets in and out. I once took a nest that my Lasius niger kept escaping. I took the nest, it wasn't even DIY, that's the worst part. But I took it under a tap, and the water came out from all corners and all sides, and I was just like, okay, if I can put half a liter of water in this box and it's empty within only 10 seconds, I understand why the ants are escaping all the time. But the product ended up working perfectly for bigger species. I just didn't know that at the time. So yeah, that's something if you can try it with some products. That is, yeah. But with that being said, guys, it's the first time in a while we've all 4 been here, so that's a big win for the team at the end part. And I don't know, I think everybody know the format, so I'm just gonna say, next week, I don't have a name for the episode, but next week we will be interviewing the guys who normally speak French on their, YouTube channel. And with that being said, I hope you have liked this episode. If you have enjoyed it, please feel free to share it with your ant-keeping friends and let them know why you think you should do DIY. And if you have some comments to say, please let me know in the comments or send it to the Antpod and create a little discussion. But with that being said, guys, are we all ready to say bye at once?
Let's give it a go.
Yeah, wonderful. Are you also ready, Ryan?
Yeah.
Wonderful. So 1, 2, 3, bye. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Yep.
Wonderful. 1, 2, 3.
Bye.
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 Oh, it sounds worse every time. It sounds worse every time. I love it.